there is a definite sense among more and more people that something went wrong. Something went wrong in our schools. Something went wrong in our politics. Something went wrong in how we think of gender. We need to go back, find out where we, diverge from the path of the straight and narrow, go back so that we can go forward. Another thing that I do talk a lot about is rediscovery of manhood, the rediscovery of the mythic nature of what it means to be a man. Until we find and rediscover that, you could kiss the family goodbye.
Is the globalist agenda dead?
No,
that's not the question.
I want to. It's not the question.
No, it's the wrong question.
Yeah.
Is MAGA like sustainable?
That's not the question
past
either.
The Tea Party movement. That's still not the question?
You're asking lame questions.
All of them. All of
This is
them
going to be
done.
a great show.
We'll stick around for all the dumb questions I'm about to ask. Dr. Steve Turley, host of Turley Talks. What?
He's probably not here anymore after those questions.
No, he left. He went to bed.
Like, yeah.
He went to bed. Hey, y'all, thank you for joining Crosspolitic on the Fight Left Feast Network. Good to be with you. Pastor Toby, Chuck Knox. I'm the Water Boy. And over to Toby.
Dr. Steve Turley earned his PhD from Durham University in England, is known as the Patriot Professor. He's a cultural scholar and commentator who specializes in nationalism, populism, and traditionalism. That's too many isms. With our 1.26 million YouTube subscribers and 17 million podcast downloads, he provides daily cultural analysis and political insight to inspire a global audience. He's the author of more than 20 influential books and featured speaker alongside President Trump. Dr. Turley champions the worldwide rise of faith-based traditionalism against globalism, and author of this brand new book, America Awaken. Steve, thanks for joining us on Crosspolitic.
Oh, it's an honor. Thanks for having those. Now, the questions that Gabe was giving, that's not what we're talking about, right? I could get that on any AM talk radio station, but yeah, I know you guys are a whole different deal. That's the
thing, that's why I'm trying to protect you.
Yeah, and thank you, Toby, for that. It's an honor, guys. I've been following you for years. You're awesome. You're everything I want to be when I grow up. And I seriously, this really is an incredible honor for me to be on the show with you guys across politics. Thank you so much for having me.
That's what I was going to say.
You, Doctor.
Now I don't know what I'm going to say. I was going to say all the same things to you.
Yeah. So you are, like, speaking of, the antithesis of AM radio. Where the norm of conservative talk radio is how bad everything is.
Yeah.
How dark it is, how terrible it is, and sort of this screechy, like, if we don't, it's worse than you thought, and this is the only thing that can somehow get people off their couches to vote once a year or whatever it is. You've got a different message. You're talking about a global religious renewal, and I want to know why.
All right, let's start the clock. This will take about 50 minutes or so.
That's what I'm here for, Doc.
10 words or less.
That's what I'm here for.
That'll be the intro part. I love the way you set it up, because you actually set it up, I think, conceptually, quite logically, because I think and you guys know this and your audience knows this, I think for at least the last 300 years, we have been in a very liberal human moment over human history, going all the way back to the Enlightenment, the 18th century. It started off, I guess, innocent enough, but this epistemological revolution that basically said that scientific rationalism is the one true way of understanding the whole of reality, and that through scientific rationalism, we no longer needed all these superstitious, savage-like, beliefs like religion or nationalisms or civilization or anything like that, culture, custom, tradition. All those things could be cast off into the past, and now we can actually, through scientific rationalism, discover the one true political and economic system, and this is key, that could liberate all populations from their superstitions and their oppressive traditions, particularly their religious traditions. And so in the 18th, 19th, and 20th century, it's been an outworking of that. So you had your 19th century colonialism, then you had your 20th century, sort of battle of the gargantuans of the three options you had of this one size fits all political and economic system: Western liberalism, Soviet communism, and Nazi fascism. What they all had in common is they were all trying to take over the world in their own way, and and bring civilization to the world and the like. And so, yeah, in a sense, I'm a bit sympathetic in a weird kind of way to the doomers and to the black pillars who are always worried that it's all going to fall apart, and the globalist cabal, they're just waiting for their moment and they're going to come on back, and Trump is just temporary, and then we're going to go back to all these problems. I get it. We've been conditioned over 300 years to think liberalism is this unchallengeable god that is controlling the world. And what I tried to do in the book is make the sustained argument that actually, ironically, it's liberals themselves in the field of what's known as post-secular studies, which I discovered back around 2008, 2009, at the height of the Obama era, in my doctoral studies at Durham University. This whole field of study argues, sorry, that era, that liberal, globalist, modernist era, has come to an end. All movements eventually, as we all know, all movements come to an end. And
back
it
in
is
2008, they were recognizing that?
What's that?
Back in 2008, they were recognizing that?
Yeah. And it was primarily Russia, India, Africa, Middle East, definitely Turkey. That was a big one. Iran, of course, with the 1979 theocratic revolution. And parts of Europe where the nationalist populists were starting to rise. Now, at this time, they're only getting about 5, 10, 15% support. But these same post-secular scholars, who were all liberals, by the way, they weren't necessarily liking this. But they said, keep an eye on this, because these movements are growing every year. They're 2xing, 3xing, 4xing, compound. They're growing every year. Now, in the United, they thought the one hope was that the United States and the European Union, the bullies in Brussels, we call them, they would stave this movement off, because now we were in the era of Obama, and they thought there's a the ideology is called progressive realism, and progressive realism is basically the notion that the arc of history moves in the direction of the liberal. And obviously this took over during the Obama era. This is just this air that our legacy media breathes. It's the air that our universities breathe. This progressive realism. They were all progressive realists for the United States, but they thought the rest of the world was kind of going back to nation, culture, custom, and tradition. And then lo and behold, what happens in 2016? And their whole world begins to unravel. So I make the argument that I think the post-secularists were right. I think we are watching the secular world unravel in real time. I think you guys in Moscow, Idaho, I have a chapter on you in the book. I do on the rise of Christian nationalism and the great redoubt, and you're at the heart of it. I just think you're at the forefront of the new era that's rising, and the new era is a return. It's a return to nation, culture, custom, tradition, faith, family, freedom, because there's this sense. Sorry, I keep riffing here, but
please.
I'm very excited to be with you guys. So my brain is going like 1,000 miles per hour. But there is a definite sense among more and more people that something went wrong along the way. And they look at the wokeness, they look at the insanity of what they're doing with kids for ideological purity and all that sort of. And something went wrong. Something went wrong in our schools. Something went wrong in our politics. Something went wrong in how we think of gender, whatever it is. So we need to go back, find out where we, diverge from this path of the straight and narrow, go back so that we can go forward. And that is sort of this archaeo-future kind of vibe that's coming back literally everywhere. It's not a coincidence that the hottest education right now is an education rooted in Athens, Jerusalem, and Rome. It's not a coincidence that the major political slogan is "Make America Great." Again, going back, drawing from traditions that worked, that we deviated from, so that we can continue the path forward.
Yeah. So this kind of, I mean, I was kind of, being shorthanded at the very beginning of the show, or off the cuff, but I mean, I really, when you watch the Tea Party movement, it kind of, Obama comes in and there's this huge reaction amongst conservatives and libertarians being like, oh my gosh, no Biden, no government, stop overspending and stop overtaxing us, kind of Tea Party stuff.
Yeah.
And that kind of whimpered out pretty quickly after. Basically whimpered.
Is that a word?
Yeah, whimpered out.
Okay.
Steve, doctor was shaking his head. Yeah,
I know
what you're saying.
Okay. All right, that's a word.
I'm going with it. I've seen Gabe. Gabe's got some shoulders, man. I ain't arguing with Gabe anytime.
But so what's the difference between, like, because I kind of buy into the idea that progressivism is going to win over the short term in these next, I mean, I kind of thought, okay, Obama's going to win, and then Hillary Clinton, I was ready for Hillary.
Yeah,
I had already made up my mind. I was like, she's going to be president. And then, Trump pulled it out. But how's MAGA going to be sustainable in a way the Tea Party was not?
It's a phenomenal question, and it's a very important one. We have a study from 2010 called Mad as Hell, and it was on the Tea Party movement. By the pollsters Doug Schoen, the Democrat pollster Doug Schoen, and the Republican pollster Scott Rasmussen. And what they found it was a very good book, because they just compiled all this data, and they found we were experiencing a very significant political realignment that we know today as populism. And the key with populism is that it's not so much ideological. If I say I'm a populist, you don't necessarily know where I'm coming from. I could be a Marxist, I could be hard right, I could be whatever. Because populism isn't so much ideological, it's structural. So what populism does is it redefines the political divide. So we generally think of the political divide as left versus right, conservative versus liberal, Republican versus Democrat. That's a horizontal divide. But what populist movements do, what drives them, is that more and more people start thinking of the divide, not so much horizontally, but vertically. The people versus the political class, the ruled versus rulers, the taxed versus the taxers, right? The ordinary American versus the oligarchs. And what the Tea Party was, in many respects, it was a bona fide populist movement where people just realized it doesn't matter who I put into office, Democrat or Republican, we're always getting the same freaking thing. It doesn't matter. Yeah. And I just think more and more we're voting for a uniparty that has two-party manifestations that both in the end up defending their own values, interests, and concerns of this political class as over and against values, interests, and concerns of the people. So there was this extraordinary alienation between the people versus the permanent political class. But it's just a structural, sort of realignment, as it were. What you needed for this to have real teeth is the next phase. And that's what a lot of these scholars were pointing to in what they called civilizational populism. And that's what was starting to rise in Europe and Russia and even in China and India and the like, with Modi and the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, Hindu Nationalist Party, where now the divide is understood literally religiously. The divide is now understood civilizationally. It's understood in worldview. So what civilizationalism does is it provides the ideological import that fills that structure. So now we know why there's a divide. There's a divide because there is a political globalist elite that are selling us out in terms of border security, our economic security, and our cultural security for their own political and financial affluence, for their own power and for their own wealth. And so it's up to the people to rise up and defend our borders, our economy, our culture, our nature, our nation, our tradition, our religions, as over and against this liberal globalist elite. And dude, that civilizationalist populism is on fire everywhere. It's gone way beyond the Tea Party movement. Again, Tea Party was structural, whereas I would argue MAGA now is much more ideological. And now you've got the Pete Hegseths coming in. Now you got the Marco Rubio. You got the J.D. Vances. You didn't have that in 2016. I would argue in 2016, it was kind of Trump contra mundum. It was like he was getting it, he was understanding it, but even he was having a hard time articulating that. But now with Giorgia Meloni in Italy, or Viktor Orban in Hungary, you know, right? Or even I got to meet Nigel Farage in Vegas at the Trump International Hotel. That was pretty cool. Looks like he's gonna be the next prime minister, and he's talking in civilizationalist populist terms. So now we have something to fill out the bones, the structure of populism, and that is civilizationalism. And man, that is a hard genie to put back into the bottle.
So what do you mean? Define kind of this civilization populism for me. Does it mean like God is now back in our politics? Does it mean we're low tax, we're low tax people? Or, what does that civilization populism definition look like?
Yeah, so the best way to, I think, define it is what it's reacting to, because it is reactive. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
And it's reacting to what scholars call post-security politics. So post-security politics involves the various ways in which globalist policies have basically undermined the whole rationale for the nation state. So the nation, and you guys all, I know you guys all in your audience knows, the 17th century treaties of Westphalia, and the nation state's very much, what's her name? The scholar Applebaum said this is one of, of course, the major fruits of the Reformation, because what the reformers said was, look, we don't want this one size fits all, umbrella over all peoples, diverse peoples. We want a geographical political map that's more reflective of the biblical world, where you have, a nation for Hittites and a nation for Moabites and a nation for Israelites and so on. And then the messianic Israel vision becomes the vision for all the different nations. So the nation state is a confessional thing, quies regio, ius religio, whatever his religion is, that's his region, as it were. And so the nation state becomes this confessional Christian structure that basically takes over the world because it was very practical. It offered border security, so you weren't getting marauded and invaded all the time. It offered economic security, so you had a decent standard of living within a vibrant economy. And it offered cultural security, so everybody spoke your language, everyone had your same religion. You got to celebrate the things that made life meaningful. But liberal globalism has basically just bulldozed all that over the years. It's bulldozed, of course, border security, because it loves cheap labor, and globalism by its nature doesn't know border. It by its nature transcends border. So, and it loves bringing in the cheap labor in order to maximize that profit margin. But then it works the other way. Economic security is gone because of what's called a global division of labor, where they send out manufacturing and industrial jobs to so-called global South, third world nations, again to maximize profits for the CEOs and the corporatists and the like. And then when people raise a concern like Pat Buchanan did back in 1992, because that's when all of this was starting to happen. Remember, Sam Huntington is writing Clash of Civilizations in early 1990s, right at the same time Francis Fukuyama is saying, what do you know? Hegel was right. We've reached this end of history. Liberal globalism is the wave of the future. Sam Huntington laughed and said, yeah, dude, you haven't seen anything yet. What you just saw is the Soviet Union break apart. You're going to see the West break apart as well. You're going to see liberal globalism break apart. And we're all going back to nation culture, custom tradition. Who was challenging George Herbert Walker Bush at the time? Pat Buchanan, right? And so the moment they started raising concerns about the border and shipping economic jobs and so forth overseas in order to maximize profit margins, they were called racist. They were called bigots. They were called xenophobes. So wokeness, this was the precursor, wokeness serves the role of being able to hide globalist policies under the veneer of virtue. So by nature now, all of a nation's cultures, distinctiveness, its language, its traditions, and so forth now suddenly become obstacles to human emancipation. So globalism has eradicated, in many respects, all three of those securities that were guaranteed by the nation state. So what's happening now is we're in effect saying now that globalism is starting to erode, it's pushed itself really to its brink. More and more people recognize this is a party I wasn't invited to, and they're pushing back. How are they pushing back? They are reasserting border security, economic security, and cultural security. So we're going to build that big, beautiful wall, right? We're going to bring manufacturing and industry back. And my favorite in 2016, we're going to say Merry Christmas again. That's the thing about Trump. What I loved about Trump is he never spoke in the abstract. Being the great real estate developer, he never spoke in the abstract. He always spoke in very symbolic, tangible, material terms. We're going to build a wall. We're going to bring manufacturing back, and we're going to say Merry Christmas again. Border security, economic security, cultural security. And I don't think any of us dreamed back then that we would see the flourishing of that post-security politics into the civilizationalism that we're seeing today.
I got so many questions, but I've been kind of dominating.
Doc, this has really been interesting. I'm still chewing on what you said when you first started talking. The fact that I mean it. I've been thinking about it. We are in a collapse of an era, of secularism.
Yes.
But it seems like that we're fighting, at least on the conservative side, with the secularists about which one of us is collapsing. Like, no. Christianity's collapsing. It's falling apart. Look at it. It's everywhere. We don't have anything that we used to have. Families aren't there. People don't love their nation anymore. The secularists like, no, everything's falling apart. Like, we don't have globalism. We have borders now. Look, they're deporting people. And so like there's this weird clash between we're arguing for which person's world is falling apart.
It's very true.
Right?
It's very true.
And so there's the question I'm having in here is this. If I believe what you're saying, that the last 300 years has been secularism that's falling apart, then the biggest problem that we have is that we have short-term memories currently. Yeah. So then if that's the case, there's only a few things that conservatives can do that will be helpful in this moment, I think, which is, okay, if we were to take the secularists at their word that their world is falling apart, what are the 3 areas that we should double down to help them be right?
Oh, my.
You will be held accountable for this question.
Because I want them to be right. I want them to be.
That's right. Well, so, I mean, the moment you say 3, I go into the post-security politics mode. All right, border, economic, and culture.
Yeah.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Because what I'm thinking of is like, okay, I can do some of that through voting. But you got to have a virtuous society as individuals to help develop the kind of society that can survive after you get the people in politics with some virtue, right? So I'm thinking as an individual who they can't touch the border, but they can touch federal representation to touch the border.
Okay, no, that's great. Thank you. That definitely clarifies it for me. Well, the obvious thing in terms of what men and you're on the front lines of this, but a lot of people don't know this. They're just learning this, which is so neat, is that men in particular are rediscovering faith. So for the very first time now, I thought it was a Pew Research poll. I could look it up, but, or Gallup poll. Did you guys see this? It was a Gen Z poll that found for the first time now men identify as more religious than women.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're talking about like double digits, 12, 13 points. So when I was doing my research on that, because I bring it up in the book, sociologists were just gobsmacked. They had no idea how to interpret that because they said, we've never seen that before. Religion, and this is all over the world. Religion, generally speaking, is a maternal thing for whatever reason. It has a feminine flavor to it, at least in the modern age. It's been. And now this is part of we're seeing something we haven't seen before. There's a reversal going on. Men are rediscovering faith. And ironically, I know you guys, Pastor Wilson loves to say God draws straight lines with crooked sticks. And ironically, it's a secular Canadian psychologist that's bringing them to faith. You can't make this stuff up.
Isn't that crazy?
You cannot. He has done more to reinvigorate real faith. I mean, these guys are going to like traditionalist, churches. They want ancient faith kind of stuff. He's done more to reinvigorate real faith than I think, the vast majority of Protestant pastors or Catholic pastors, for Orthodox for that matter. So there's something extraordinary there that's just unprecedented. There's also, so right there, I would urge, particularly all the men listening, and I know I'm preaching to the literal choir here, but it's time to return. If you haven't returned, it's time to return. And that is because if you do not have your faith, you do not have your culture. Cult is the heart of culture. Cult is the heart of culture. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about the guys who knock on your door and bother you in the mid-afternoon. I'm talking about cultists, right? The worship.
Cultus, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. Cult is the heart of culture. And if you don't have cult, I've talked about this with the broader sort of conservative world. I know you guys have as well, who have rediscovered this sort of faith, family, and freedom. They've rediscovered, they're very nationalist. And they hate globalism and so forth. And yet I point out to them that their epistemology is still 18th century scientific rationalism. And I say, we need to revisit that a little bit, because where do you think this all started? Where do you think this whole liberal globalist thing started? Start with the very epistemology you continue to draw from Richard Dawkins and so forth. Ironically, even Dawkins is talking about being a civilizationalist Christian.
Yes,
I mean,
I know.
it's the golden age. Again, I don't know what to say. I mean, it's just, even our atheists are now lamenting that Christianity is done. I mean, it's just hilarious. But
look at God, what he's doing. Yeah,
exactly it. So that's my thing is I put, and it's happening. A lot of these guys are like, you're right, I do need to go back to church. So I would push everyone, go back to faith, go back to your faith traditions, make sure you're getting back. If you want to save Western civilization, it is Christ and Christ alone that can do it. Now, I believe Christ is Logos. I believe all civilizations are called to him, but let's start with it. Let's get we'll do the the JD Vance ordered loves kind of thing. Let's start in our own backyards, our own families, our own backyards, and then we can flourish it out into the world, which I know that's exactly what you guys are doing, what I love. So I would start there. We've got to go back to faith. Another thing we can do, let's do the faith, family, freedom kind of structure there. Another thing that I do talk a lot about is the rediscovery of manhood, the rediscovery of the mythic nature of what it means to be a man. And until we find and rediscover that, you could kiss the family goodbye. So I know CNN may have a problem with that.
That's fine.
You patriarchs, you and all that. I saw the latest spot they did on you guys. Loved it, by the way. It was brilliant. But it was but even that, you could see that it was like the Bible and basic Christian civilizational faith, where the family and manhood is at its heart. The renewal of Adam is at its heart. That is so foreign to the progressive realist. The progressive realist is so cut off from those frames of reference. It's like they're like poking you with a stick or something. Like, what kind of thing are you? And I noticed a lot of the comments on X when I would see that clip there. is they would mention things like that. Like it is more, it says more about CNN and where they are and the frames of reference that they have to question what's happened, the miracle that's been happening in Moscow, Idaho for these last few decades, that they would reduce it to a bunch of emancipatory politics questions, like, you know, what do you think of the 19th Amendment?
Are there more black people in your church?
Oh, that's another one. Yeah, right. Are there actually black people in your? But
they interviewed Lennox for 45 minutes, and then that's the clip they put in there. Are there more black people in your church?
Of course. What else are they going to talk about? That's the only thing. Again, in that kind of emancipatory politics mind, that's the only frames of reference that they have. So rediscovering family, I think, involves a lot of just simply rediscovering manhood.
That's really good.
True virtuous manhood, and then freedom. I would the element of freedom is exactly what we're doing here. The rise of the network society, an internet-based society, and cyberspace is more and more freeing us from the old liberal industrialized order of the 19th century, which all our legacy media comes from, and they all come from the way we collectivized cities in the 19th century. So the New York Times, the Washington Post, the LA Times, the Chicago Tribune, the Philadelphia, they're all collectivized in what's called mass society. We all got industrialized, we all got atomized. You know the whole gist of it. We're now getting liberated, just very naturally and very organically getting liberated from that. Because of the internet, we can now bypass the legacy media in a manner comparable to how email and texting bypasses the post office. We don't need it anymore. 99% of our communication is not done through the post office anymore.
That's a really good point.
Greg Gutfeld makes the joke that it's time to ban the post office, and its crime is it just delivers junk mail. The only thing I get in my mailbox,
oh my goodness,
is junk. That's it. It's pure junk. Nothing more. All my bills, anything and everything is all now online. And so same thing with the legacy media. If you want junk, if you want nonsense, go to CNN, go to MSNBC. But if you want real quality content that has to prove itself every single day, can't hide behind a CNN or even a Fox moniker, then you go to Crosspolitics, and you go to this, you go to Tim Pool, you go wherever you go, but they're going to have to earn your trust every single solitary day. So I think those three things, the renewal of faith, the renewal of family, and then freedom, particularly through the network society, it makes us unstoppable.
That's really good. The connection between the old way of thinking and the traditional tech. Like, I didn't put those two together in the same way. That's really helpful.
Well, it's so heavily. We've talked about how decentralized that makes truth, but that you're right though. That's hand in hand with freedom. Right. The fact that it's decentralized, there's not a centralizing point. Like, you have to go through this central headquarters of truth. Yeah. No, it's like I got an iPhone. Yeah. And you got an iPhone, and truth is God's world. Right. And we don't have to go through the high priests at CNN or DC or whatever.
Well, and the old form of tech was also a taskmaster. It trained us to think a particular type of way about truth. Yeah. Right. Well, this new kind of taskmaster, if you will, that it makes us think ourselves by gathering multiple forms of information to make a decision. Right. You don't just say, well, I guess, they said it on CNN. This must be true. Now it's like, okay, is there corroborating stories from other people who are seeing the same thing? What's their information? It makes you dig just a little deeper because, they might not be telling you the truth because it's just a free platform. People can say they wouldn't. But so we look at everything differently. Now we're looking at traditional platforms that way. Yeah. It's like, I wonder who's paying them. Where's the money coming from? Exactly. I wonder what's sponsored. It just makes you think differently about it. That's so helpful. I gotta say this too. This is just an amen to what you were saying. I think you said this in the beginning when you talked about family. There is a tendency to jump to family before education, and you didn't. That was very helpful. a lot of times, yes, you do need to have a family, but you need your theology to inform what a family is. What is a man? What is a woman? What are children?
Right.
And so you're getting an education about an anthropology, right? You're getting an education about what a woman is supposed to do and what kids are supposed to do. And that's helpful because sometimes people jump into this and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Right? Like God has grace for that too. But there's a process even before that step of educating yourself in this. And because the family has been so eroded, the education that used to be baked into the family. Yes. It's not baked in like it used to be anymore. And so we usually are having now, what is the industry? I think $2.6 billion of influencers and industry coaches that exist out there.
Wow.
I call that an inheritance now that you have to go and buy back.
Yeah.
That's stuff that used to be baked into the family that we used to get. How do I know
used to be dad and grandpa and grandma and aunts and uncles?
How do I know if a boy used to like me if he wants to marry me? Boy, that's something that you used to pay for when you sat down with your grandma and had tea on the porch.
Yeah.
Like that was the cost of that.
We're gonna work this out.
Yeah, let me tell you, baby.
Sit down, boy.
Right? Like, but that's all gone and eroded. So education is an essential step. Yeah. You know, that's what your theology is supposed to do, be informing that. And the family used to be right in there to help you to the creation of a family. Anyway, that was very helpful. Thanks, Tom.
No, that's brilliant.
I remember reading, and a few years ago, I'm curious. I read what's Barry Goldwater's famous book? It was the
Conscience of a Conservative.
And Phyllis Schlafly.
American Eagle Forum.
It's what is it called? Choice, Not an Echo, or something like that.
I'm forgetting hers, but I know what you're talking about.
But it was about the Barry Goldwater phenom in the 1960s. And I read those two things. And the thing that occurred to me, so in the 1960s, so you're talking about the disintegration of secularism and the beginning of this, what you're calling a golden age.
Yeah.
And I remember reading those two things together probably, 8-10 years ago. And I went to Doug Wilson and I said, it seems to me like they were like sort of like John the Baptists in the 1960s, like voice crying in the wilderness. Yeah. Like there's a
Goldwater. You're talking
Goldwater, and Schlafly. Schlafly's the she was an anti-feminist conservative.
Yeah. Okay.
She actually, her last book was in defense of Trump, and then she died in 2016.
Really?
A conservative case for Trump.
Wow.
And I didn't see it till after he had been elected, and but I remember reading those two things, and I just thought, wow, like that's the 1960s.
Yeah.
And they're crying out in the middle of the sexual revolution, in the middle of the aftermath, the civil rights legislation, and all this kind of big secularism, if you will, kind of trying to clamp down on the country. And they're saying he ran for president. He wasn't elected. He was a senator from Arizona.
Yep, that's right.
But like, I remember reading those guys and thinking, wow, we've come so far.
Yeah.
And like, to your point though, like the temptation is constantly for conservatives to do the woe is me. We're losing still. It's like we're all.
We don't know how to win. All we do is bellyache all day. We really don't. And again, that's why I love your a feast. What is it? Yeah, fight, laugh, feast. I always get it in the wrong order. I love fight, laugh, feast because every single one of those are positive. They're all pro, right? They're Protestant, right? They're pro, and I just think so much of conservatism has been. And again, I get it because of the last 300 years. But so much of it is Armageddon, apocalypse, Fauci's back. The masks are coming back. No,
red coats are coming.
Hey, you could put this to the bank. The masks are never coming back, guys. You could, if anybody has any sense, the world has changed radically, and it's largely because of how liberalism's imploding from within. It's not necessarily because conservatives conquered. We're very cowardly. I'm the first one to admit I'm cowardly too. But watching liberalism and secularism implode from within because of its own incoherence, not even knowing what a woman is. A Supreme Court justice thinks you have to be a biologist to even just have an opinion of what a woman. They've gone nuts. They've gone absolutely. I remember the Hungarian 20th century historian John Lukács. He was speaking in IS, an Intercollegiate Studies Institute get together in Wilmington, Delaware, in my backyard. And this was probably 2002, 2003. We went with our whole classical upper school to go and see him speak. And his first words, and I never forgot it, is, "You and I are living in an era of the death of liberalism." Now, this is 2002, and he's a 20th century.
Wow.
And I was like, what the? Because, again, I mean, I'm like, oh, so you mean because like George W. Bush is president? No. We're living in a time where this emancipatory, I don't know what I want to call it. Yeah, idolatry, this notion that we must liberate people from the oppressive traditions of the ages, that is now reaching absurd levels. And he predicted we would get to the point where we would try to liberate children from gender norms. And what he was getting at there was just this liberalism, if you push it to its logical end, when it becomes its own God, when it becomes an idol, it ends up being self-destructive. That's what all idols do. So he said, don't worry. Conservatives aren't doing a great job, but they're going to have to clean it up because it's collapsing. It's falling apart. Well, here we are 20 years later, and he was right.
So I'm curious, you've been thinking about this for a long time now. What does this new era smell like? What does it taste like? What is kind of map? Because I think we have an idea of what can go wrong, but we don't have an idea of what could go right.
Yeah. So for me, I love, so one of the phenomenons that I've been studying over the years is this phenomenon known as retraditionalization. It's this sort of this return in order to go forward. So this is where you get this notion of archaeofuturism. That's the French theorist Guillaume Faye, again, writing it in the early 90s. It's a really interesting time, and all this stuff is coming out because they saw the Soviet Union collapsing and falling apart, and they thought, oh, okay, Russia's just going to become a good secular globalist liberal member of the party, as it were. And for a while with Yeltsin, it looked that way. And then 2000, this guy Putin comes in, and at first he looked like he was going to be he wanted to join NATO, and he wanted to bring Russia more and more into the West. And then all of a sudden, something, what our elites would say, weird, started to happen, and he started talking about like the rise of Russian Orthodoxy again, and how we have to restore traditional values, because without traditional values, then alien secular values end up coming into our society, and they will erode us completely like it eroded the Soviet Union. And he would even started talking about the Soviet Union was itself a Western Marxist ideology that destroyed our traditions. The only way Russia will last another 1,000 years is if we go back to what kept us alive for the last 1,000 years. So they're like, what the heck is this? They start instituting pro-life issues. And then when they pass the anti-gay measures, where they didn't allow for any public expression of homosexuality in any advertising, or they started shutting down gay bars. That was it. That's when Vladimir Putin became persona non grata. But I think that's the vibe. The vibe is that in everything, you're seeing the same thing with Modi's India. You're even seeing it to a certain extent in China, where Xi would say they're more Confucian than they are communist. He's arguing that their current government right now is more of a modern version of Confucianism and Taoism. So again, there's this archaic future. Now, scholars will be very skeptical of that. Say, well, he has to say that because the people don't believe in communism anymore. Everybody wants to get rich in China. Okay, I don't care why you're saying it. the fact that you have to say it proves my point that people are going back. They're returning to their cultures, customs, and traditions. And I think that's what we're seeing literally everywhere. So right before we got on, before we went live, the breaking news now is Pete Hegseth has just restored, or has just implemented, the CLT, the classical learning test, which is a classical SAT, a civics-based SAT, as part of, as I understand, as part of the entrance exams into the military.
That's correct. Military academies.
in military academies. So this is what we're seeing.
Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
We're seeing a going back. The military got woke. The military was going insane. It was literally going, and it was unraveling as a result. Just ask Vlad. He knew that back in February of 2022. He said there's no way America's gonna have put any kind of resistance against us. So for whatever whatever reasons behind it, he went into Ukraine, not while Trump was president, not while Pete Hegseth is Secretary of Defense. It'll be very interesting to see what they do tomorrow in Alaska. Very fascinating summit there. Great power politics kind of stuff. So I think it's a return. It's a going back quite literally. Trad wives are like the new thing on TikTok. Trad wives. Kids, 16-year-olds, fascinated with how a housewife lives and how fulfilling it is. And these videos are getting millions upon millions of views. Classical education's coming back, even to a certain extent, if you think it through, kind of Bitcoin and crypto, going back to the ledger. The ledger is a medieval concept of money, literally writing down where the actual gold is and so on and so forth. So you're getting the sense that the way forward is back in everything. We deviated from the path. We got to go back and find out where we deviated. I would argue, this is what's behind the rise of what's called Christian nationalism. I frankly don't care what you call it, but Christianity's always been woven into American society. You guys know that. I mean,
That's
again,
right.
we have a Supreme Court decision that explicitly says America is a Christian nation, and cited law after law after law from Pennsylvania too. They cited the Pennsylvania, it was the Bueller case, I forget, 1890s. They cite Pennsylvania Supreme Court justice, the state Supreme Court justice, saying that Christianity is part and parcel of Pennsylvania common law. Liberals love to point to Pennsylvania. Right? William Penn, Pennsylvania is the perfect experiment for secularism. That's not how our court system traditionally understood it. So it's just when we go back, we're going to rediscover our faith, our families, our freedoms. We're going to rediscover that. It'll reawaken very naturally, and then we can go forward and develop in new and exciting and wonderful ways.
I'm going to read this ad, and then Gabe has amazing questions.
Amazing.
All right, there we go. Page 50 is a distinctly Christian marketing company striving to help Christian-owned businesses grow and succeed in our digital age, or what Dr. Turley would call our free golden age.
Golden era.
They don't want to just make a paycheck. They want to change the world, and that means building it alongside you. The mission is bigger than just Sunday. Page 50 wants to help Christians recapture the work week, economic and political influence, and the public square. Page 50 doesn't work with just anybody, but if you're a believer, they want to work with you. Visit page50.com. You got to spell it out, pagefifty.com, and see what they can do for you. That's page50.com. In a garden long ago, our first parents fell to the Dark Lord's deception, sparking a cosmic war between light and darkness. Today, that battle rages in the hearts of the young, future warriors in a struggle as old as time. Dark forces cloak their lies in promises of peace, wielding imperial government schools to mold children into minions of a godless empire. Yet hope rises. Nearly 10 million kids have escaped and counting, trained by parents in faithful Christian schools in the ways of the light. The resistance is growing, so join the rebellion this October 16th through the 18th at Rocket Town in Nashville, Tennessee. This is Fight, Laugh, Feast 2025. Train the young to launch them into battle. The Spirit is with us. Christendom's war begins anew. We got Doug Wilson. We got George Grant. We got David Bonson, Ben Merkel, Larry Taunton, David Goodwin, Who else? Virgil Walker. I'm missing some people, but they're all going to be there. We want you to be there. So go to fightlaughfeast.com. We're going to do a live show at the end of the conference. You don't want to miss that. There's going to be beer and psalms. There's jumpy castles for the kids. Fightlaughfeast.com. Register today.
So this is kind of a little bit based off my question about the Tea Party versus MAGA. What's the longevity there?
Sorry, Gabe. I'm still thinking of beer and psalms. Sorry, that's okay. I thought,
new era,
dude. That is the best hook to bring in the audience I've ever heard. Beer and psalms. Bring it on.
Yes, sir. Amen.
Sorry, forgive me.
What do
you you need to be there, Dr. Turley. Like, we would love to have you.
I'll be there. I love Tennessee. Love Nashville.
All right.
So, what do you think the next 20 years is going to look like? I mean, if I had to write it all out myself, it's like, okay, JD Vance takes over Trump when he's done with his terms, and then Ron DeSantis, and then maybe Pete Hegseth.
Yeah, Pete, definitely bring on Pete. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I mean, do you see? I mean, I based on my current thought is like, I think JD Vance is a shoe-in. I think we're gonna easily win the next election for sure. But like, what's your long-term thoughts there? Cheating, election cheating aside.
Yeah, which is going to be harder. It's going to be harder and harder now, especially with the mass deportations and with all of the election reforms that have happened, and the new census that's happened. And again, Idaho's poised to pick up a new seat in an electoral vote, and I mean, just all the vibrancy is in red states right now. Blue states are just a shell of what they used to be. They were at one time during the 19th century. That's where all the economic power was, especially after Reconstruction. And
they were red states back then.
They were exactly. Well said. No, well said. California, right?
Yep.
Nixon, Reagan, absolutely. Well said. So you're absolutely right. Now all that vibrancy has shifted now to the red states, the growing red states, almost 30 of them at this point. So, I see border security, economic security, and cultural security as the three main political themes of any viable platform from this point forward. I don't think you ever see the borders opened up like they were back in 2024 ever again. It would be politically untenable. People wouldn't stand for it. I think you're going to continue to see a vibrant religious renewal going on. I think we're just at the start of it. Every indicator right now is showing religious renewal, not just here. It's all over the world. Again, it's just part of this sort of restorationist politics that's happening that I see very holistically as a social and cultural phenomenon. But so Hindus are becoming more Hindu, and Confucians are becoming more Confucian, and Israel right now is basically a theocracy. The Knesset is more or less a theocracy, they're arguing. Turkey is there was a time that Turkey used to teach their kids, talk about a return to traditional education. There was a time they used to teach, this is after the Ataturk reforms, that the Ottoman Empire was bad. It was evil. They wanted to go secular. They were really embracing its secularism. Under Erdogan now, the Ottomanism is it. That's our goal. We're supposed to reawaken the Ottoman Empire. I mean, everywhere you look, religiosity is returning, even in the most secular parts of Europe. This is fascinating. You'll love this. Again, when you want to talk about God drawing straight lines with a crooked stick, even in the most secular parts of Europe, they are now declaring the need to return to Christianity. Example, so laïcité, so this notion of secularism in France, Marine Le Pen has made the argument that if we do not return to Christianity, we are going to lose our secular society. Let that hit you. If we don't return to Christianity, we're going to lose our secular society. Why? Because the vacuum that the lack of Christian commitment has created is being filled with Islam, and Islam does not recognize a secular public square.
Right.
So you're so in their own ways, however misguided that may be, whatever. But
Yeah,
Geert
yeah.
Wilders, right? Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, atheist agnostic, depending on which side of the bed he gets up on. He'll look at you and say, if the Netherlands doesn't rediscover Christianity, we will never be able to withstand Islam. And he's one of the biggest critics of Islam. Richard Dawkins is doing the exact same thing.
That's right.
He's literally doing the exact same thing. He is appealing to those civilizationalist, populist frames. He's not saying, the problem is those French. He's not thinking in nationalist terms. And I don't think he has a problem with nationalism per se, although I thought he was on the other side of Brexit. But the problem isn't the Irish. The problem isn't, the Spanish or the Dutch. The problem is a foreign alien civilization. It's Islam. That's civilizational populism. So I think you're just seeing the beginning, and it's coming in all different directions and all different ways, the beginning of this religious renewal that in the midst of all that, you're seeing some real vibrant, strong faith. I think you're going to see a much stronger culture of family. I think, again, the genie's out of the bottle. People want it. Young men want it. The more woke, ironically, our society gets, the more it alienates men. I mean, there's no way around that, because men are the ultimate patriarchal evil things, and they don't want anything to do with wokeness. So the more woke we get, ironically, the stronger our families are going to get. I think you're going to see thriving local communities, local economies free from woke corporate control. I know, Gabe, you're on the front lines of that, bringing in the parallel economy. When we were together in Lancaster, that was my talk. The parallel economy has become the Patriot economy. It's now mainstream. It's becoming increasingly mainstream. So woke corporate control is basically dead. God bless Sydney Sweeney. Sydney Sweeney is if ever there were a beautiful picture of the death of wokeness, there it is, right there. She is, and what we have, there was a Harvard Business Review article just came out that found that what they called aspirational marketing. How's that for a term? Aspirational marketing. In other words, marketing going back to traditional values, marketing going back to celebrating the family, celebrating faith, celebrating Americana is booming right now. All the money that's in the corporations is they're going away from the full figured or whatever, the body positivity models that were destroying their brands. And they're pumping tons of money into the Sydney Sweeneys, and you just look at what Bud Light has been doing. Bud Light is almost shamelessly patriotic right now. They just need they just need Lee Greenwood drinking a Bud Light as he's singing "Proud to be an American" and the like. So
Don't give me any ideas.
I think that's true. So I think those are all the dynamics, and we'll see. I mean, what's going on in DC with the federalization of the law enforcement there. Trump has been talking a lot, and he's a builder, this is the way he thinks, but he has been talking, I wouldn't say a lot, but here or there about freedom cities and reinvigorating our urban life. And so, it's okay to have a flourishing rural life, but at some point you do have to reinvigorate your cities. That, after all, is the heart of the term civilization. That's civitas. Augustine didn't write the rule of God, and I mean, you gotta have your civilizational seats in some kind of vibrant city, which I know Moscow will eventually easily become. And so I think you're going to start to see more and more of just this ethos of, we're all, again, what you guys are on the front lines of for the last decades. We're here to build. We're here to create. We're here to fight. We're here to defend. And those virtues, those values, what I guess I'm trying to argue is they're taking on an organic nature right now. They're just finding their way into the most unlikely of places. People in Washington, D.C., when they're getting interviewed right now on the streets, and we're talking working class people, not the silly liberal elite, living in their gated communities. Working class people, go to church every Sunday. They are so thankful. They finally feel like they can walk outside at 8:00 at night and not feel like they're going to get shot. And they love it. And it's wonderful. It's the Nayib Bukele. I heard Bukele is now a verb. They're Bukeleing Washington, D.C. And
I heard that too.
The way Trump is talking, he's like, this is just the beginning. We're going to liberate our cities. This is the golden age for everyone, including the cradle of our civilization, our cities. So I think that it's just that dynamic that you guys have been at the forefront of. It's now just sort of making its way out, and it's beautiful.
In many ways, what you're describing, it makes me think we all through COVID, one of the things we pointed out that is that actually God was really, really kind to us. It was terrible and dark in certain respects.
Yeah.
But in other respects, it was glorious because it sifted a whole bunch of the church. It sifted the media. It says, who cares about truth and who cares about falling into line?
Yep.
And the people that cared about truth, everybody saw. And then I would say at the center of it all was the churches that stood and said, we're going to worship Jesus. We don't care what you said. We have a mandate from God, and you don't run the church. The Lord Jesus is the head of the church. So we're worshiping on the Lord's day. And some did that, and racked up fines. Some did that and had all kinds of, got arrested or whatever. But then
only the bad ones got arrested in parking lots, if I recall.
Yeah.
Some of them, yes. And what it did though was we said a number of times, God lowered the bar in intense ways. Like, here's how to win.
Yep.
Okay. Be open.
I'm gonna simplify this for you.
Yeah. Open your doors.
Yeah.
Worship God.
Don't require masks.
No masks. No vax mandate. And just be normal. and then it's like, and so it's like, and
all these churches started growing.
Yeah. And these churches blow up.
Yeah.
These and there was the whole blue state flight where people are like, we're out of California, we're out of Washington.
Refugees, as they're called.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got to get to a free place, and there was this great sorting going on. But I think in so many ways, what you're describing is actually just more of the same in certain ways, because the tranny agenda, we're drag queen story hour, we're gonna trans your kids, we want dudes in girls' bathrooms. It's like normie America's like, I'm out. I want normal human life.
Where are the Christians?
Where are the Christians? And so you have
right,
but you have I think the Joe Rogan's like, you guys find a church.
Go to church.
Exactly.
Become a Christian.
And so but I think God has lowered the bar, because it's like, okay, it's the garbage can of secular leftism, progressivism. Like, it's just a garbage can. It's death. It's suicide. We're going to leave your grandparents to die in nursing homes. And now, and now we're, in Canada, we're going to actually euthanize them. Or you can have big, vibrant families dancing in the streets, feasting, celebrating, having your grandkids around your dinner table on Sabbath. It's not really even an option. It's clear. It's like, we want to live. We want to be, let me be human. Let me be a man. Let me be a woman. Let us be free. And I think that's just beautiful.
There's an organic nature to when the Berlin Wall fell.
Yes.
The crowds went in one direction.
Totally.
The crowds went in one direction.
You better preach.
That's right.
But it really happened. It's so organic. We do have, there is this tug of the Spirit that's drawing us, saying, come home. It's time to come home. Enough of this prodigal nonsense. It's time to come home. And what you just said is so profound, because if you think about it, in many respects, even our whole of our Western civilization is rooted in just that narrative that you gave. Are the two foundational books of our classical canon, right, is the Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. And how does Iliad begin? In media res, in the middle of all the chaos, in the middle of all this nonsense. They're far away from home, and it's war. So what's the second book? It's time to go home. It's Odyssey. It's nostalgia. It's time to go home. It's the prodigal son. It's the prodigal son. That is the Greek version of the prodigal son. And that's what conservatism is. Conservatism is the return home. Liberalism is the eternal prodigal journey to nowhere.
Yeah, that's right.
Pig slop.
Pig
And
slop. Nowhere.
but the father is looking down the road.
Yeah.
And he wants to kill the fatted calf and throw a party. And everybody that's throwing parties is winning.
Beer and Psalms.
Beer and Psalms.
Beer and Psalms.
Yeah.
I love it.
Dr. Turley, thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Dr.
Appreciate
Turley.
you.
Thank you for joining us.
America Awakened. I just bought the book. I want a signed copy. Gabe, can you make that happen for me? Can you give me a signed copy? I want one. All right. Hey, appreciate you, Dr. Turley. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. If you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Crosspolitic.